Hi everyone, my name is Phil and welcome to Phil Does 3D. I'm a multimedia and 3D artist and I stream live on Twitch on Mondays and Tuesdays at 5 PM Pacific time in the United States, which is 10 AM if you're in Australia or 1 AM if you're in the UK. Hellforge, morning to you, it's good to see you, and time for coffee, that's exactly right. I'll reply to your message on Discord after the stream. I tried to get it in before the stream, but it was didn't have enough time. It's good to see you though. I hope you're well. Hope you had a good weekend. Oh, coffee. Do remember, guys, if you miss the live streams, you can catch up at any time by clicking the videos tab at the top of my Twitch page, because I upload all of my previous streams after I stream them. I couldn't do it beforehand. I cut out the countdown and stuff, so yeah, it's just easier to watch if you do miss them. Do remember too that you can always catch my streams on my YouTube channel, but my YouTube channel is not as up to date as my Twitch live streams because I'm an affiliate, so I have to keep my videos exclusive to Twitch for a certain amount of time. So if you are watching me on YouTube and you want to see the very latest work, jump on Twitch and watch me on Twitch. But my videos will always be uploaded to YouTube, but they'll just be behind a little bit. Remember too, Healthwood says 2 AM in Central EU. Wow, there you go. 2 AM if you're in the Central EU, 1 AM if you're in the UK, I believe. You were late to reply, no worries. Healthwood says that's about all I can really say. Been having problems sleeping for a few days, but I've gotten some modelling done instead. Oh, well, that's no good. Listen, yeah. I don't know what you're referring to, but the city I'm living in, which is in Melbourne, Australia, I don't know if you guys have watched the news or heard what's going on, but the human malware has been pretty bad here, so we've just gone into stage 4 lockdown. Basically what that means is they're going to be closing down all retail, most construction in the city that I live in. We have a curfew now, so we can't leave the house between 8 o'clock at night and 5 o'clock in the morning. We're on a lockdown. So yeah, that's a bit distressing and a bit disheartening, but we have to soldier on. What can you do? But I'm glad you're getting some modelling done. That's the important thing. Alfred says, I hope you're doing well. Heard Australia got set back some harsh law. Yes, we did. Starting a couple of days ago, we went into the curfew at night, so no one can leave their home between 8 o'clock at night and 5 in the morning. And it was announced yesterday they're going to go into closing down all retail, most construction. So basically they're closing everything down in the city. I mean, supermarkets and things will stay open, but people are panic buying at the supermarket again. People freak out whenever the government announce these things. You don't need to panic buy if you're an Australian and you're watching me and you're in Melbourne, because it really only affects Melbourne at the moment. Supermarkets are going to stay open. You're still going to be able to buy your groceries. You don't have to buy 2 months worth of groceries. Supermarkets are staying open, so don't panic, guys. Helpwood says, jokes on the government. 3D artists don't go out anyway. That's exactly right. Yes, joke is on them. We don't leave the house. We're constantly sitting, working at our PC. Anyway, we'll get through it all. Eventually it'll be fine. It'll just take time, that's all. Such is life. What can you do? Best to stay safe and alive. That's what I've been telling you guys all along. I don't mind the lockdowns. I think if it saves people's lives, I'm all for it. I don't mind at all. I'd rather put people's lives ahead of profit, and I'm actually happy that our Premier, who is the guy that's in charge of the state that I live here in Victoria, decided to go into stage 4 and to start locking things down because, yeah, people's lives are much more important. Much more important than being able to go out and buy whatever it is, unless it's food, you don't need it. You can wait a couple of months until things, get better. Then you can go and buy it if you want. It'll do you some good. You don't need to we spend too much money on crap we don't need. Anyway, what was I saying? Yes, we're going to continue working on the House on the Hollow game, which is a game you can wishlist right now on Steam. We're actually working on the attic, or we're supposed to be, but I've decided I'm going to be jumping down to the basement just for the next few streams while we work on there's going to be a lift in the basement. It's actually going to be an area just past the basement. So we're going to continue doing that today. Healthboard says, besides, you can always order on. That's right. You can order online instead of going to the shop. That's right. If you really, really, really can't do without whatever it is you need to buy or you want to buy that's not food, order it online, get it delivered. I mean, yeah, that's the way to go. Your deliveries might take a little longer because of everyone ordering online and getting stuff delivered, but it's much safer. You can still get your stuff. You can get that retail therapy fixed if you want. Just get it delivered. I don't know about you guys, but I'm an Amazon Prime member, so if you're ordering through Amazon, you don't pay for delivery. So it's a win-win. You get your stuff and you don't pay to get it delivered. So, and Amazon sell just about everything these days. But nearly every retail outlet is delivering, so. And that includes if you want to go, like all the restaurants have been closed down as well, except for things like takeaway. So you can still order your food and go, you can pick it up before 8 o'clock. You can't leave the house after 8 o'clock where I live. But you can get that delivered by one of the delivery companies as well, like Uber Eats or Deliveroo or whatever they are. So. Helpboard says, will the game have a nice looking telescope somewhere so the person who lived there before could spy on the stars or the neighbours? Oh, look, I thought about adding a telescope. And I'm not saying I won't. But at this stage, it's not. See, the problem, if I add a telescope, people will expect to be able to actually look through the telescope in the game, which will be another thing that will be adding to feature creep if we want to make it interactive. And then if we make it interactive, people will think, well, what's the point of it unless it's part of some puzzle, and that more feature creep, because then we'd have to introduce some sort of puzzle element around the telescope. So at this stage, no. I think it would be cool, and time depending, depending on how much time we've got, because we'll see. But at this stage, no. So yes, I decided then, even though we are working on the attic officially, I wanted to work on the lift, which is going in the basement, or the wine cellar, or whatever you want to call it. So we're going to be continuing doing that. So last week we were working on the control panel for the lift, so the thing that makes the lift go up and down. We decided to make that a separate panel. If I jump into Max, this is the untextured version. We textured this up last week in Substance Painter. So instead of having the buttons on the side of the wall in an elevator like you normally do, because I thought that was a bit boring, I decided that we were going to go this direction and have an actual control that sits in the middle of the floor in the lift. It's just prettier. It's more interesting. So we did finish texturing this up. Smurfberry Barbecue, it's good to see you. Smurf says there are no neighbours in the hollow. No, there are no neighbours in the hollow. Smurfberry is quite correct. Once you get into the hollow, you're trapped there. So there are no neighbours. There are no people. You're on your own in the hollow. You've got to work out how you can get out of it. Find a way out of the hollow. So Healthboard says, could have it dismantled and in its travel case. Maybe have it in the attic or the basement so that the player can open the crate and find it there. That's an option. That's an interesting. I hadn't thought about that actually. Well, that is an interesting option. We could put it in the case and put it in the attic. But then you'd think, I'm just concerned that, say we have this lovely telescope that's in this nice case, well, an old case or whatever in the attic, they can open it up, they see the telescope. It could be a fun interactive thing for them to be able to open it. But me as a player, if I came across that in the attic, I would think, well, why can't I pick it up, put it together and use it? That's sort of the first place my mind goes to would be, oh, it's interactive, like I can look at it, but I can't use it. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see how time goes. Because there's so much to do when you make a game. There really is. And it's not just me doing it. I'm doing it with a game studio. But man, there's so much work. So much work. Helpwood says, don't say that or I might want to move. Yeah, I wouldn't mind living in the middle of nowhere with no one around. Particularly at the moment with the pandemic going on. Anyway, can't do that. I live in the middle of a big city and that ain't going to be changing anytime soon. Well, I can't because I'm under lockdown and I can't leave the state. So like most of my brother and my sister live in a different state to me, but because of the lockdown, I couldn't visit them even if I wanted to. We are not allowed to leave the city. So Anyway, getting back to this. Now, we did finish the texturing, we did the UV mapping, we did the texturing and substance painter. There was one thing that I decided that I did want to include on this asset. Now, we've roughed out how we're going to be setting up the lift, the guys and I at the game studio. Basically, the lift main door will be locked, so you're going to have to find some sort of key to unlock the lift door before you can actually get into the lift. In conjunction with that, we're considering actually making it so you actually have to get power to the lift before you can actually use it. So they're two like puzzle pieces you need to work out before you can actually even use the lift. But I thought a third thing I might do here is actually make it so we have this little, you see this little door here on the front? You might have been wondering when I was texturing it up what that's supposed to be. Well, I always intended for this to be an access panel for the actual electronics that are inside of that control, that lift control. So if I just open this up, now what you will have to do is there will be one of these fuses inside the lift already. This fuse here though will be missing. So you're going to have to find that fuse, put it inside its little panel there before the actual control here will be actually usable. So before you can use the lift, you're going to have to find the fuse, one of the fuses. One will already be there to show the player what's missing, but the other fuse you'll need to find in order to actually activate the control panel for the lift. So we've got those, we're planning on having those 3 different tasks that the player is going to need to do in order to actually access the lift, use the lift. So the lock lift door, power to the lift, which we've not settled on doing that yet. We're still sort of trying to work out the programming side for that, and then the fuse, of course. So it's just a way to, you know what it's like. You've got to try and block the player at certain parts in the game to give them something to do. So it's basically just what do they call it? Search and fetch and search, or search and fetch, or you know what I mean. Snowberry says only deer. Yes, there's only deer. Elford says maybe there's no eagle either because he's been stuffed and he's in the in Mr. Barrett's study now. So Elford says maybe there's a note on it or a picture in the crate as well. So the players open it, find that, which will be the main reason the crate is interactive. Oh, I see. Like put a clue inside of the case that the telescope will be in. That's a good idea. Could have it at the bottom. P.S. The new lens I ordered will take a few weeks to arrive. Oh, wouldn't that be funny? Fetch quest. Thank you, Smurpery. That's the word I was looking for. Fetch quest. All games have them, and the reason they have them is to give the player something to actually do in the game. So that's basically our thinking around the lift. That's sort of like what we're blocked out at the moment with regards to the actual lift, the elevator. So the lock door, power to the actual elevator, and then this fuse that you're going to need to find to be able to activate the lever. So, but having said that, I did realise that I had forgotten to texture this up and UV map it. So we're going to do that today before we actually jump into the lift proper, which we'll be doing very soon, because this won't take too long to do. It's only a very small, if I isolate it, you can see it's just this little box thing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to texture it up as one object. Then I'm going to remove one of the fuses, which we're then going to turn into an interactive object inside of the game. But it will still be using the same texture map that the entire switch thing here uses. So Helpwood says that way it explains why the telescope isn't interactive, but the case is. No, that's a good idea. I hadn't thought about that. That is a good idea. Because I need to think of things to put in the attic too, because that's while we're working on the basement lift, I'm also at the same time thinking of the attic, because I've got to try and work out the design for the attic and what things are going to go in the attic and all that sort of stuff. So, and we're getting to a point in the game now. There's a cat walking past my balcony out there. Not my cat, somebody else's, a neighbour's cat. Just caught my attention. Well, now that we've got so much stuff made for the game, we have to start to be really careful that we don't exceed texture budgets, model budgets, things like the more models, different models I create, the more texture memory that's going to start to use. And we're going to really start to be careful with that sort of thing now, because there is so much going on in that level already inside that building. I can't go hell for leather. I have to be really careful about adding more stuff until UE5 is released and we can have unlimited polygon budgets and unlimited textures and unlimited draw calls, apparently. We have to work with UE4 2.5, so I have to be careful, and we have to be careful of all that sort of stuff. So I'm sort of trying to think of things we can add to the attic that I've already made, because generally things you put in the attic are things that are broken or you don't want to use anymore. So we'll tackle that when we come to actually set the attic up in the Unreal Engine. What you'll probably find me doing is taking bits and pieces that we've used in the building and putting them in the attic, maybe lying flat, lying down, chairs on their side, that sort of thing, just so that we can sort of fill the attic up with stuff so it doesn't look empty, because you've got to give the player a reason to actually go up there. There will be a reason for the player to go up there, because there'll be an object you have to pick up to add to your inventory that you'll need to use later in the game. So it's hidden in the attic. You don't have to go up there to get that, but we need set dressing in the attic to fill the attic up to make it look believable, real. So yeah, I'll probably try and reuse assets we've already made. That way I don't have to worry about adding more texture memory or adding more polygons or more models and things. So we'll try and do that. There are certain things I can use, such as the big chandeliers we have in the building. They're instance hierarchical instance static meshes. So they're basically hardware instance objects, which means when I made them in pieces so that I could duplicate the pieces as an instance, things like the crystals that hang off of them and things. But the actual frame itself of the chandeliers, the metal frame, that's a separate object that I then put together to create the chandelier. We can use just the frame sort of thing, just lying up in the attic as bits and pieces that, that we can reuse that won't look odd. We'll tackle that when we get to the attic though. Smebury says the interaction is mainly point and click, right? Well, sort of, yeah. Well, sort of. It's a thing. You guys have played. You know what that Edith Finch game? It's actually probably going to be more interactive than that. But things like opening drawers, reading notes, that type of thing, flicking switches, pushing buttons, that type of interaction. So it's not like a point and click adventure where you've got a static image and you're clicking on different things, you pixel hunting or whatever they call it. No, it's not like that. It's interactive, and you can open drawers, you can open cupboards, you can open doors. You can add objects to create a result, that type of thing. And there is the Steam, thank you, Hellforge, the wish list. You can wish list the game by clicking that link that Hellforge has popped into Twitch chat. And don't forget to join the Discord server. I have forgotten to mention that. Yes, if you do want to join the Phil Does 3D Discord, click the link that Hellforge popped into Twitch chat. Mercury says it needs to be more like Surgeon Simulator or Hand Simulator, full control of each finger and the wrist rotation. Slap that hand all over the desk as you try to perform the simple act of picking something up. No. Look, we did receive a suggestion that when you're interacting with objects in the game, to have a hand come out to interact, have the hand come out to grab the drawer to pull it out, have the hand come out to turn the knob to open the cupboard. All of that sort of thing is really cool, but it gets back to feature creep. All of these ideas are really cool and really great, but if you don't sort of start to draw the line somewhere, the game will never be finished. There will always be another great idea to include and add. And all of these things, of course, take time. So, no, there will be no hand coming out to grab a drawer. There will be no hand coming out to open a door. You'll have a mouse pointer that you'll click on. That will be what you'll be doing. while it's a great idea, it's just there's too much work involved and all of these little ideas start to add up and they really push the timeline right back. So, you know, I've got to be, I'm not the project manager, but I've got to be like the bad project manager that says, no, you have to get this done and I need this deliverable done by this date. So you can't include these features. Because, you know, otherwise it will just be never ending. Healthwood says, Smurf, thanks for posting the tutorial on Discord. Yeah, I saw that, Smurf. It was a really cool tutorial. I didn't watch it, but I saw you posted it in the tutorial section on the Discord. There's a whole load of great tutorials and tips that the users of the Discord, the Phil Does 3D Discord, have posted. So you should check it out. Not just the one that Smurf just posted for Hellforge, but there's a whole heap of different tutorials on a whole range of subjects and different programs. So it's worth looking through. It's stuff that the guys and girls that are members of the Discord server have come across and have posted that think would be useful and helpful to other users. So it's a curated list, and it's some really interesting and useful tips in there. So tutorials to watch. Remember to save and drink some coffee. Yes. So we're going to be. I'm going to be texturing this up really quick today. We need to UV map it, but it's a very simple object. It won't take too long to do. We're going to use a glass shader I've already created when we bring it into Unreal, and the actual wires inside of the fuse here. This one will be lit again to show the user what they need to find and what will happen when they insert the fuse. So I already have a shader created in Unreal, which is an emissive shader that will throw light for the wire. And I actually think I've already got a wire material created as well for the other light bulb. So I don't need to texture up the wire. I need to UV map it, but I don't need to actually texture it up inside of a substance painter or the glass, just the rest of it. Healthwood says, it was basically a highlight reel of all the common mistakes I made with that project. So I have to go back and rework a lot of it. But I think that once I'm done with it, it's going to be killer. I'm getting the lighting done. Well, I saw the lighting from the image you showed me, and it is looking cool. You seem to be tackling the lighting okay. So that's what I'm trying to say. Healthwood says, I just need to focus on some of the weapons right now, as those are almost done. Yep. So let's start UV mapping this up, shall we? It is one object. And we're going to send it over to Rhizome UV. Now, even though, like I said, I'm going to be using shaders I have already created for the glass and things, we still need to UV map it. So we're going to do that. So let's go into sub-object mode and pick the different pieces and do them one by one. And once we've done this, then we're going to move on to the actual lift itself. We will do the wires. These are just pretty much boxes and things, so UV mapping them is pretty simple. Well, it should be anyway. You never know, but it should be. We'll do all the boxy bits first, then we'll tackle the actual fuses themselves. Remember, as always, guys, if you do have questions while I work, feel free to ask. I'm You won't be bothering me. It's the whole point I'm on Twitch. If you just want to say hello and chat, that's always welcome. But if all you want to do is watch, then that's completely fine. I don't always want to talk to the person streaming. I watch streamers myself, and many times I just want to watch them. I don't want to talk to them. Phil wants to be antisocial. Okay, let's do the two Ys at the bottom. Helpwood says, that's all right. I got nothing interesting to say anyway. You don't have to have something interesting to say. You can talk about anything. It doesn't even have to be related to 3D if you want to, you know. You guys know I talk about anything and everything because I'm such a motor mouth. I never shut up anyway. When I'm streaming anyway. Now this one. What will be a good one for this one? Probably not this one. We're getting too much stretching happening. Look, now we probably could use this one. Let's see. But what we're going to need to do is I'm going to add a cut, but I'm going to add the cut behind. So basically this is the fuses are pointing towards us in the actual model. So we're going to switch around to the back and we're going to do a cut through the back side. And that way it'll be hidden in game, which is cool. We want it to be hidden. Because we need to do it because we're getting way too much stretching happening. But if we hide it to the back here where no one will see it, then it'll be fine. No, don't do that. Let's do an unwrap. The reason I'm doing it this way is because even though it's fixed a lot of the stretching, which is what I wanted, but I'd rather that than have a seam through the front to fix the UVs up anymore. I think what's happened here is I might have just forgotten to do a cut. No, let's do an optimize. So I'm going to select these pieces and I'm going to optimize them. There we go. So now we have a much better unwrap. I'll just get it to do a repack. Now this is going to be interesting. We have a wire in there, and you see, I'm going to have trouble actually selecting that because of these meshes that are in the way. But let's UV map these ones up first. Let's try this one. Nope. Nope. Yeah, I'm going to do this by hand. I don't like the way the program wants to do an unwrap on these. So I'm going to, again, switch around to the back side. And we'll do a cut. Through there. And a cut. There. Now we need to do a cut on the inside as well, because these are actually glass tubes. Now, let me just explain why I've modelled it the way I have. So instead of just making a cylinder, which is one-sided, to add my glass material to inside of the Unreal Engine, what I've done with this is I've actually used tubes, so that it's two-sided. There's a bit of thickness to the actual mesh itself. That's so that when we add the glass shader in Unreal, we're going to get distortion happening on the wire, so it's going to look like glass. If it was just a one-sided poly object, the glass material, while it would still look okay, it wouldn't look quite correct, it wouldn't look right. Particularly too, because one of these fuses is something you're going to be able to pick up, to turn around and look at to add to your inventory. So the player is going to be able to get, again, quite close to the tube when they're looking at it, and they're going to be able to rotate it around in all different directions. So I wanted it to look more physically correct, and the best way to do that is to actually give it a bit of thickness to the actual mesh prior to adding the glass shader, because we'll get some nice distortion. But that does mean we need to do a cut on the inside as well as the outside. It looks like, again, I'm just trying to work out what it's doing here. Why am I getting a little bit of stretching happening? Let's see if we can't optimize it a bit. No, we're not going to get any more optimization. Looks like there's a problem toward the bottom here with the UV mapping. So that'll be the top here. Might be because I forgot to do a cut all the way through. Maybe. Let's just make sure it has actually done a cut through the top. I mean, it should have. That's what the yellow line is meant to indicate, but I will just double check. Yeah, no, it has. So why are we getting an overlap? Okay, it looks like what I might need to do is I might need to actually cut it through here as well. And we'll have to do the same on this side. It looks like I need to do a cut just up there. I forgot a little spot, so I'll have to come back and do that in 2 seconds. I made a bit of a mess of that. Let me go back. Mercury says, fix it, fix it, fix it. We will fix it in 2 seconds. What's the Australian saying? 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Australian slang. cut that. Let's fix it. Fix it. Fix it for Smurf. Where is it? Up here. Get it to repack. And now we should be good. Actually, it looks like there might be another problem. I think I might have forgotten to do a cut up here as well, by the look of it. Yep, I need to just do a cut through here.
I was trying to look back. I'm just trying to move in the shadows. Yesterday, tomorrow, I'm searching for a way. I can't tell the difference between you, between me, and search for an answer. I can't tell the truth, even though it takes
I'm just going to move this as well.
the things I fear the most, between you, between me, and search.
Now we should be good. Okay, so now there are wires inside of here, which I can't get to. So I'm going to send this back to Max, and then I'm going to send the wires over separately, because I can't select them with this mesh in the way. So let's save it so we can send it back to Max. And now I'm just going to throw an edit poly down. Don't know that I can get in there to select that. So I'm just going to select the glass and do a detach on it. And that will allow me to then select the wires. And do a detach on those. And now we can just select the wires and send those back over to Ryzen. Helpwood says two shakes of a chick with fries on the side. Helpwood says, and have some coffee. It's been ages since I like. You're right. Better. Well, let's UV map these up. Let's try this one. And that should be fine. Let's send that back to Max. We can close Ryzen down, that plugin, we don't need that now. So what I want to now do is I want to attach everything together and do a repack. So, no, I don't want to create. Oh, come on. You're being annoying, very annoying. We want to attach. So I'm just going to use the attach separately here. So we want that and we want that. Now we need to do an unwrap and do a pack. Now I'm just going to double check that our orientation is correct here. So those I believe are the tops of the fuses. Let's just double check. Yeah, they're the fuses. So they're all facing in the same direction, so that'll be fine. This is the glass tube. They're facing in the same direction, so that will be fine. This is the actual box itself. That should be fine. I think we're okay. Okay, so let's do a quick save. Now I do want to do vertex coloring so we can texture it up uniquely. So I'm just going to collapse my stack so we can go into sub-object mode. So we're going to have that as its own texture color. Let's make that a yellow. This and these bits can be their own color. So let's make those a green. Now the wires I want to have as two separate colors. So I want like a red and a black, or a blue and a red, or you know what I mean? So we're going to give them their own color. The top and the bottom can have the same color. So that can be an aqua. And then this one and this one can be its own color. Let's make that a purple. Did I forget to do those two? I bet I did, you know. I bet I forgot those little squares here at the bottom where the fuses actually touch. Let's just double check that. Actually, I might keep them separate actually. We might make them their own color. I want to make them like a silver, I think, as opposed to this, which will be a bronzy goldy color more likely. So they can be their own color. Let's make them a red. So that then leaves these pieces, the top and the bottom of the fuse. They're actually going to be like a copper color. So let's make them dark green. The glass itself and the wire inside, again, I'm not going to be texturing those up in Substance Painter, because I already have shaders created in the Unreal Engine for glass and for wire that we'll be using. So they can probably stay white. But we do have these brackets that hold the fuses in place. That are going to be really annoying for me to select. I can see. Oh, there we go. We'll make them their own color. And let's make them a dark blue. I'm just going to turn Vertex Coloring on so I can make sure I have not forgotten anything. So it does look like I might have forgotten part of the box. So let's just select all of that and make sure it's yellow. Hang on, is that correct? Am I doing that right? Yes. We're making sure that's yellow. Okay. I think I did forget there's these brackets at the back as well. And they can be the same color as the green here. So they're like a line that runs behind the fuse to keep the fuse in place. So let's select those and let's make those the same color as this green here. But aside from that, I think we're good. We're going to keep the glass and the wire white because we're not worrying about texturing those up in Painter. Alrighty, let's turn object color off, so vertex color off I mean, so I can do a quick save and export it. Let's export selected. Just before I do an export, I'm going to do a reset on the X form just to make sure everything is copacetic. Pivot position, it can stay where it is, that should be fine. Quick save, export selected. We're going to put it into the elevator controller. Yeah. And we're going to call it Fuse Box. Let's jump into Substance Painter. Create a new project. select the fuse box. I'll leave it at 1024. I may even knock that down to 512. I'll wait till I get it in game and see what it looks like. Certainly no bigger than 1024. Okay, now we're not doing a bake from a high to a low. So you see I have broken it up into the fuse box glass, which we can turn off because we're not going to texture that up in Painter. The fuse box wire, which we can also turn off because I'm doing that in Unreal. So we're just concentrating on the actual box itself. We're going to do a bake out. I'm going to bake it out at 2048, but this is just the bake out for Substance Painter. The texture itself will still only be 124. And I'm going to use the low poly as the high poly. We're going to change the ID from material color to vertex color. And bake. And have some coffee. Okay. So let's texture this up now. I'm going to jump into my smart materials and I want to start with, let's start with the actual box itself. Gold. That's right, it's going to be gold. You know it's going to be gold, Smokeberry. It's going to be gold. Well, the actual, you know that the controller itself, that's all brass and gold, so we want to keep it consistent. So the actual box here that the everything sits in will be a gold. But I'm going to start with a metal, a plain metal. And we're going to put gold over the top of it using a smart mask. Got to make sure we're in the right layer here. We want to be in fused box, not in glass. And we just want a metallic material. Maybe. Maybe this metal. That'll be fine as an undercoat. I'm just going to remove the blank layer at the bottom. We don't need that. Now I want to add a gold over the top of that, I think. Hellforge says, I may or may not have done something really questionable in terms of materials for that shotgun I posted on Discord earlier. You may or you may not have done something questionable. Hellforge says, I did it to troll a friend, but I'm not hating it nearly as much as I thought. I'll have to check it out after the stream. Have another look at the image that you posted. I didn't pick anything up from what I saw. So we have this gold overlay on the old metal, which is fine. Now I do want to add a bit more gold to it though. So let's go back to, let's try this gold. That's fine. Now I'm going to add a smart material, a smart mask, smart mask. We're going to use the surface one. Hello Kitty, Smurfberry says. Hellforge says, after messing around a lot with the lights in Unreal, Substance Painter really feels lacking by comparison. Well, yeah, Substance Paint is really only meant to give you enough lighting so that you can see what your model's going to look like. It's not like Unreal. It doesn't have as many features as Unreal does. Okay, now this is all going to be, I'm going to add this layering just to everything, and now we're going to go through and start to texture separate pieces, different pieces up separately. So what I can do here is I can keep all of that. Yeah, I can keep all of that in separate. Let's jump back to the smart materials, and I want to get like a copper. It's copper worn. I'm going to throw that down. We're going to group that, even though there's only one layer. We can still group it. We're going to call this Fuse Tops, and we're going to mask that group with color selection and mask it to. Oh wow! Why? Why? The ID map didn't bake out again. Why is that? It did that the other day. I have updated to the very newest version of I bet you I did a bake out on the wrong layer. Bet you. Let's just redo a bake out here. I'm gonna make sure I'm selecting the right layer. I see it. Bake selected. I think that was the problem. ID is Vertex Color. Bake selected. Helpwood says, get back a cuppa. Did someone steal yours? You know, I did Vertex Color, but I was in the wrong layer. So again, yeah, just something to be aware of. If you're using multiple material layers, like multiple materials, you must make sure you're in the right layer. There used to be a bake out all. Is that gone or is that still there? Looks like you can use selection sets. It should have baked it all out anyway. Let's check to see if it has done the bake out. Now it has. That's all right. So yeah, we just had to make sure we selected the right layer when we did the bake. So what I want to do here now is I want to go back to my smart masks and let's find. I'm losing my voice. Pardon me. Let's try the dirt soft edges one. We're going to add that to let's try adding it to the copper worn. I'm just going to see if we can't get a mix happening. I might not use this smart mask. The smart mask. I might use a different one. I don't know that this one's really going to do what I want it to. Yeah, it's not doing what I want, so we're going to remove that and we're going to add another different mask. Let's try this one. Giving me more of a look that I was after. Now this mask that I'm using is called Fabric Edge Damaged. Now you notice it says fabric. You meant to use it on fabric. Just because it says that doesn't mean you can't use it on anything else. So don't be afraid to, play with the other masks, smart masks, even if they're not really meant for metal. They can still be useful. I just want like a corrosive look happening on some of the copper tops. What I might also do is we might put another material underneath of that. Helpwood says Vertex Coloring. Smappery says copper toppers. That's right, the copper toppers. I'm just looking to see. We have the standard copper as well. We're using this copper worn. We have a standard copper. We're in the copper layer. Let's just add this standard copper as well. And again, let's go back to our smart masks. And maybe let's look at the surface warning. Let's look at the stains and scratches. I just want to knock back a little bit on the amount of rusting going on there. I just thought it was a bit too heavy. Just want to pull it back a little bit. Helpwood says, yeah, for sure. It's always good to experiment with the different material and mask combinations and with your models as well. Some really cool stuff can happen if you stray from the beaten path and play around with it rather than following it. But the same goes for these mixing here, like changing these different types of mixing types can really give you some really interesting effects as well. So don't forget to play with those as well on the different layers, because you can get some really interesting effects happening. Okay, let us. I want to make these plates here that the fuses connect to. I want to make them like more of a silver. So we've got I've got a chrome we could use. Just going to see if there's anything else that could be cool. We have quite a few different chromes from shiny all the way through to rough. We wouldn't want to add a shiny chrome, I don't think. Steel dirty, that could work. Let's try the steel dirty one. And again, let's mask with color selection just to those little plates at the top and the bottom. We're starting to get into detailing here that's going to be much smaller than the player will probably be able to see anyway. Because even when they kneel down to put the fuse in, they're not going to be really any closer to the fuse box and probably like that. So just enough so we can see the difference. But we don't have to get too carried away with texturing it up, because the player will never get this close to it. Okay, let's look at the wires. Now, the building here is like a 1900s, 1920s building, Art Nouveau, Art Deco, the game building, which means plastic had not been invented. In the 1900s, I think it was like the 1950s when plastic was invented. So we can't really use plastic, not to make it believable. Oh, we could, I mean, I'm nitpicking here, you know, I'm being a bit precious. We could certainly use plastic, and I don't think the player would even know. But traditionally, we would, in the real world, you wouldn't use plastic because in the 1900s, plastic had not been invented. So, You could use things like Bakelite. I actually asked a friend of mine and he said, I think they used to wrap wires in cloth to insulate them. Smurfberry says, make it out of rocks. So traditionally we really should not use plastic, but I'm going to use plastic anyway. I wonder if I'll get anyone, if we'll have anyone in the comments on Steam saying, you really should not have used plastic on those wires. I doubt it very much. People are not that observant. So we have a couple of different plastics here. Plastic. Smurfberry says they did indeed wrap in cloth. I think they did too. Helpwood says, how society managed to not burn down is crazy. I know, and the old valves that used to light up and things, I mean, they used to get really hot as well. So, yeah, I'm amazed that more places didn't burn to the ground. Smurfberry says they also left a bunch of wires just straight up exposed. We could do that. We could leave our wires exposed if we wanted to. Let's see what they look like with a colour on them though. So let's go with, start with, I'm just waiting for Substance to catch up here. It's a bit slow at caching some stuff. Let's go with, let's try yellow. If I can mouse over it correctly. Again, we're going to mask with color selection and we're going to mask it to 2. Let's try that one there. And let's also go with let's go with the blue. Why not? Mask with color selection and mask it to that wire there. I think what I might do here is the yellow one, which is this one. I'm just going to change the base color. I'm going to make it more of a red instead of a yellow. Just going to darken it up a bit. And the same with the blue. I think the blue is just a bit too blue. So let's make that just a darker blue. Smurfberry says, we have an old house in the family and redid the electrical in the attic, and it was all 2 wires, separate track and exposed wires. Man, so dangerous. I mean, I guess they didn't have a choice back then, but man, that's dangerous. Electricity, treat it with respect. It can kill you. The Health Board says society is messed up. Wires can just hang out naked in public, but when I do it, the police show up. I've not seen any exposed wires in public, thankfully. A friend of mine many years ago had a young son. His son was, I think, about 15, and they were kicking a ball around in the backyard, and the ball went up onto the roof. So this man's son decided he was just going to climb up onto the roof to grab the ball, and as he grabbed the guttering that runs around the outside of a roof to catch rainwater, the metal guttering, as he grabbed that, he got electrocuted and killed. And what had happened was, when they actually had built the house, they had actually nailed through one of the electrical wires. So the nail had gone through the electrical wire and was touching the metal guard, the thing around the outside that catches the rainwater, was actually touching it with the nail. So basically, anytime a light switch was switched on, that entire guttering was electrified. And yeah, he unfortunately died. He got electric shock and died. So treat electricity with respect. It doesn't take much to kill you, to stop your heart. Mercury says, I think the old type of wiring is called knob and tube wiring if you want to image search it. Helford says, looking at it now, and there's some interesting pics. So yeah, treat electricity with respect because it will kill you. Now these little brackets here, I want to separate, make them stand out a little bit more. So we're going to go back to a gold. Let's try this one. We're going to mask with color selection to these. Just trying to work out why. Oh, okay. We're going to put this in its own group. So I got a bit more control over what's going on. And we're just going to call these clasps. It is messed up. It was terrible. It was terrible for the husband and the wife of this young guy who unexpectedly was killed. I mean, the people that owned the house felt really bad because they just didn't know. Because you can't see electricity when it's running, usually. So they had no idea that the guttering of the house was electrified every time this light switch was turned on. Because no one had gone up onto the roof or touched it while the light switch had been on until this one day when the ball went up on the roof and this man's son went up to get it, and as soon as he touched the guttering, he got electrocuted and died. And he was only 15. Crosswind, it's good to see you, Crosswind. Crosswind says, I still have knob and tube wiring in my house. Man, I'd be so freaked out if that was me. Like I said, yeah, electricity, you don't mess with the stuff, and if it's not, no, it would just freak me out. I want everything to be properly insulated. So now we've added that to its own group, we can also add, let's try this one. It's going to put it in the group above the other one. And it did not put it there. Okay, we want to mask the group with color selection just to those clasps. Did I forget to UV map them? Can you guys remember? Do you remember if I did those? I bet you I did. I forgot, didn't I? I'm wondering why I'm getting some really weird stretching happening here. And I think it's because I didn't UV map them. I bet you that's what's happened. Let's do a quick save. And we're going to jump back into Max because I'm sure I did not UV map them. We're calling this fuse box. Crosswind said, I had it all inspected when I brought the place and it was safe. I'm more concerned about gas lines than knob and tube wiring. I'd be worried about both. Check the 2D viewer and painter. I know I forgot it. I don't have to check. I can tell you now. I forgot to UV map them. Because I was so worried about. I was worried about the glass and getting to the wire. I forgot about the clasps. Because I remember I did not do them inside of Painter. Inside of Ryzen when I was UV mapping. Like, I'm going to detach them. We're going to throw down an unwrap UVW, and I bet you they're not unwrapped. No. You see? They're not unwrapped at all. Let's send them over to Ryzen real quick. It won't take very long to UV map these. It'll be fine. It'll be good. Let's unwrap them. Just going to see if I can get a better unwrap from one of the other tools. That's a better unwrap. Let's send that back. Okay, now I want to throw an unwrap UVW down, open the unwrap editor. I'm just going to move them out of the 0 to 1 UV space before I do a reattach. And I'm going to attach them to the rest of the model. Now we're going to throw another unwrap down. And I'm going to place them by hand instead of getting Max to do a repack. They don't need to be that big at all. They can be scaled down quite small. Make sure in object mode. And let's see if we can't find a spot for them. We're going to rotate them. And I'm just going to move them. I might scale it down just a little bit more. And fit them in just up the top there. Okay, let's just re-export the model again. There's fuse box. And just update our project. And bake out our maps. I'll just wait for substance to finish here. There we go. I'm just going to bake them out again. Making sure that hasn't changed it on me from... No, Vertex color, good. Bake selected, we're in the wrong layer here, so this is what I mean. I make sure I'm in the right layer, which is this one down here that we want. Yeah, I understand how Forge was saying to check the UV viewer in here. But I remember I forgot to do it. I forgot. I'm just going to hide the glass and the fuse wire. That's better. So I'm just also going to so they're the clips. I don't actually think we need to do much more for this. Like I said, it's going to go inside of that that pillar for the controller for the lift. I think we should be fine. We're going to use a material that I've already created for the wire in Unreal, and also use a glass material for the actual bulb themselves, for the outside of the fuse, the glass fuse. So we don't need to texture those up. We'll do a quick save. And we'll export the texture. We're not going to be exporting the glass, we're not going to be exporting the wire, we're only exporting the fuse box itself. Let's put it in the right folder. for models. Ironwork, elevator controller. I'm just going to create a new folder called fuse box. It just makes it easy for me to separate everything else up when I need to bring it into Unreal. And export. Jeez, it exported very quickly. There we go. $10.24, that's fine. Helpboard says one of the best decisions I ever made was to get an add-on for Blender that does all the packing for me. Otherwise, I'd either have to rely on Blender's less than optimal pack or manually pack it, which takes me anywhere between 2.5 to 3 hours. Helpboard says I still unwrap by hand, but the packing I let the add-on do. Look, yeah, Max's pack tool does a very good job as well, auto pack, and you can control things like rotation. You've got a lot of options. So Max's pack tool is very good. Auto pack tool. There are just times when you're UV mapping a model that you'll want some, like, there may be a part of the model that you'll never see, and that's when you have to get in there by hand and actually make adjustments to the pack. Like, if I wanted to, a good example is this. The back and the sides here are never going to be seen in-game. You're really only ever going to see the front because this sits inside of the metal tube for the controller. So what I could have done is I could have gone through and selected the UVs at the back and on the sides, and I could have shrunk them right down so that I'm maximizing the UV space just for the parts of the model that we can see at the front here. It would just allow us to get a higher resolution texture for the bits at the front, and the ones at the back would be really low, but no one sees them, so it wouldn't matter. That would really be the only time I do manual packing. And I could have done it with this asset, but it should be fine. I'm still getting enough resolution that I don't need to reduce the res at the back here, even though you'll never see it. Okay, so we've done the control box. Now what I need to do is I need to separate this up. So I'm going to collapse the stack. Again, I'm going to go to isolation mode here. We've textured it up. What I want to do here now is I want to separate. This is going to be interesting. I want to separate one of the fuses because we need to add one to our inventory so the player can pick it up. And we need a spot free so the player can place it in game. So we're going to detach that part of the fuse. We're also going to detach the wire. Now we're going to select both of those, go into isolation mode again, and attach them together. We're going to call this single fuse. I'm just going to make sure that the pivot point is in the middle of the object. That's so that when the player rotates the object in their inventory, it stays centered. If it was left at the side, then it would swing off to the side when the player is trying to rotate it. So we reset it to the center of the object. I'm going to remove it from where it is so we know it's a separate thing. Now I also had thought that this little door, I could make it interactive in game so that when the player approaches this, it's closed and they'd have to click on it to open it up. I'm just concerned that if I were to do that, the player might not know. Like if I left it closed and the player had to click it to open it, there's a chance the player might not see that there, and they may not, and then they're going to get frustrated because the lift won't work and they won't know why. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm not going to make the door interactive. I'm going to export the model with the door already open like that. That's so that when the player approaches the control, they can see straight away that it's missing a fuse. So I just think that's a less frustrating way for the player, because I'm worried that if I close that up, they're going to miss that they have to open that up and then see that they need the fuse. So just to save frustration for the player, we're going to leave it open, export it as an open door, so that the player can see straight away that they need to find a fuse to actually use the lever. Ryan, my apologies, Ryan. It takes me a while to catch up with chat. Dang, wrong channel. I'm looking for Phil Does 8. You're so rude, Ryan. So yeah, I'm going to leave the door open. So just make sure we position it correctly though. You keep it clean, Ryan. We're a family channel here. So yeah, well, I'm going to leave the door open. We'll export it as an open with the door open. I have separated the handle because again that's an interactive object that the player will be able to use, but I am going to attach the fuse box here now to the rest of the model. Am I or am I not? Yeah, I think I will. Yeah, the box color is not that different. Like if we look at that was the other reason that I was hesitant about leaving it closed. So if we do look at the lever itself, we can see that it's not that different a color, and the chances are that the player may miss it. I'm just loading up the textured version of the elevator switch. Takes it a while because there's quite a lot of layers on that switch that it has to load in. But you will see when I load it up. Yeah, the odds are pretty good that if we leave the door closed, the player is not going to notice there's even a door there. Even though if they moused over it, the mouse cursor changes to indicate it's interactive. There's a chance the player won't spot that anyway, so they won't move their mouse down to mouse over it. Particularly because it is going to be sort of like a bit lower than where the player would normally see. The player would probably have to crouch down. There is a crouch command in the game, so the player can crouch and move. The player will have to crouch down to actually put the fuse in anyway. Helpwood says some serious onion material. Yeah, there is some serious material. There we go. And we've got to wait for it to finish loading up. There are a lot of layers on this, a lot of layers. As you can tell by how slow it takes Substance to load everything in. There we go. So you see that there's a chance that the player will not notice the door if it's closed. Particularly because the player will really be looking probably at this bit up here, and they won't really be paying a lot of attention to down here. So I think having the door open already, the player will see it as they're approaching the switch. They'll see the door is open. They'll see one of the fuses is missing. So, yeah. Alport says another way of dealing with it would be a text element on the front of the box, fuse box or some such. Yeah. Again, though, there's always a chance that the player might miss it if they're sort of like looking at the switch like this. But you're right, putting fuse box or something there. I think the easiest way will be just to have the door open, one of the fuses already there, and one missing, so that they've got a visual cue that they need to find another fuse. And remember too, the fuse that is there, once they get the power going to the lift, will be glowing. It'll be emitting light. So that'll help to draw attention to that part of the model. So materials are like ogres. How are they like ogres? How are materials like ogres, Snowberry? So anyway, we're gonna leave the door open. It'll be a nice visual cue for the player as they come up to the lever that they need to find another fuse. So the only thing I'm trying to work out now is whether I'm going to attach the fuse box to the actual base or not. There's no reason not to, I guess, really. No, I don't see a reason why not to. It is going to increase the material count on that model, but not substantially. So they have layers, of course. Oh, I don't get it. So yeah, I'm going to attach the fuse box to the actual base. Just before I do that, though, I'm going to just do a save. I'm going to select the fuse box. This is the base, and we're going to attach the fuse box. And we're also going to attach the separate door. So the door won't be interactable, but it will be open to show the player they're missing a fuse. Okay. So let's export that elevator controller base. Elevator controller handle. Okay. Latch. I'm just trying to work out what I've got. What's going on here? Oh, okay. We're going to resave that as elevator controller. Actually, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a new folder. Yeah. I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it old, and I'm going to move the ones I've already exported that I don't need to be in there just into that folder. Just so I don't get confused with all these different file names. We're going to save that as elevator controller. No, I'm going to create another folder called elevator controller. Just trust me, in the long run, it will be much simpler. And we're going to save it in there. We also need to save the fuse, so I'll save this as single fuse. I put COND at the end. That's just my way of knowing it's been condensed. And we may as well re-export the handle as well. Good. Just going to jump back into Substance Painter here, and I'm noticing this is slowing Max down, so I'm just going to go new. Actually, I'm just going to discard. We didn't make any changes to that. I'm just clearing it out so that Max doesn't slow down on me now, because we want to load up the actual elevator next. So we've exported the base with the fuse box inside. We've opened up the door. We've exported the handle, and we've exported the fuse separately. Output says, yeah, door opener is probably the easiest. Might be able to draw a cable from the underside of the top block on the underside of down to the top of the fuse box with some eye-catching material. I think with the door open, the player is going to notice, particularly because that one fuse that's left in there will be glowing a little bit. It'll actually be emitting a bit of light, so the player will notice it. Smirkberry says, Phil has apparently never witnessed the intellectual masterpiece known as Shrek. I have. I've seen all the Shrek movies. I have seen them all. But I don't recall that line from the movie. Materials are like ogres, they have layers, of course. You know, I don't remember that in the Shrek movies. No, but I have seen them all. The 3 Shrek movies, I love them all. So now what we're going to do here is I'm going to just do a save, and then we're going to open up the actual elevator itself that I've been working on. Let's save that. Oh man, I did not want to save it as the same name. I wanted to do a save. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I like to save incrementally, so if I need to go back, but I forgot. I saved over my old version. It's cool. It's all good. Let's open up the elevator. We're finished with the controller. We're going to open up the elevator. And this elevator is quite full on. Helpboard says, with the risk of getting banned, I've only seen the first one, and that was a very long time ago. Smokery says, nonsense. Shrek came out only 6 years ago. So now we have our elevator here, and I'll just explain what's going on. We have the elevator broken down into different sections. So I'm just going to turn off some of these bits and pieces so I can show you what's going on. So the elevator has this outer. So let me just turn that off as well. It has this bit at the base that this is the bit that the elevator sits inside of, and this actually will have glass around the outside of it. Okay, and these bits here are going to be mirrors. So that bit never moves. That's always sitting at the base of the elevator, and at the top it will have a sister bit that sits up the top of the elevator, goes to, from and to. We have the elevator door. Now this is the main door that will be locked. So if I turn that off, so we can concentrate just on the door. And the door has glass as well, I believe. Yeah, door glass. So that's the elevator door. That's the thing that will be locked that you'll need to unlock before you can get into the elevator. Okay? Then we have the frame, which is the thing the elevator goes up and down in. Then we have the lift itself. And the lift is actually has mesh. We'll have a wire mesh inside of it. And then inside of the lift we have a left and a right door, which also has mesh. Where's the other mesh? Left door mesh. Right door mesh. There we go. And these doors actually will slide in front of the actual inner part of the elevator. So I'm just going to get rid of the mesh because it's just getting in the way at the moment. So yeah, these doors, the left and the right door, they slide in front of the outer part of the elevator. So they'll just sort of like slide out and slide in to close, sort of thing. So if we put it all together, we have our elevator. So that's the bit that will actually go up and down inside of the frame. This bit here will always stay on the ground level, and there'll be another one on the second level. So we have to start texturing it up. Helpwood says it's one fancy elevator. Well, again, I wanted to make it ornate because there's a lot of fretwork going on in the building. The furniture and stuff is pretty ornate. Some of it anyway. And I wanted something that was going to be eye-catching for the player when they get down into the basement. I wanted them to be able to... I wanted something that was a feature in the room. I haven't worked out the design for the actual room itself yet that the elevator is going to be sitting in. But I wanted to make sure that as soon as the player entered the room, this elevator was front and center. Because it's important. The elevator will actually take the player to another part of the game, like another level in the game. So I wanted to make sure it was visually eye-catching. It would stand out as soon as the player entered the room. Because, yeah, it's an important transition between the building part of the game and the other part of the game that the player will travel to when they get in the elevator. Alford says, how do you get all the filigree models to bend around like that? I can show you. Let me give you a demonstration. So we have this filigree thing here. Okay, I'm just going to duplicate it. So I'm going to detach it as a clone. Basically, there's a modifier in Max. I'm just going to change my pivot position to the middle of the object and move it off to the side. So we have this filigree that's straight. There is a modifier in Max called Bend that will allow you to bend whatever model you have in whatever direction you want. So say you wanted to bend it around so it wasn't flat, then I just go into my gizmo and I can rotate my gizmo 90 degrees, and now I can bend it whatever way I want. So that's basically how I do it. I use the bend modifier in Max, and I just slightly bend them to follow the curvature of the outside of the lift. So what I've actually done here is I've created a high and a low poly version of the lift so that when we go into Substance Painter, we can bake out from the high to the low. Because all of this fretwork filigree, it actually is high poly. So this lift here is about 5 million polygons, which is too much for a game model. But I still want to keep all of the nice detailing, so that's why we're going to bake from a high to a low. So this is a high poly version. There is a low poly version as well that we can bake out too. Helpwood says it's something I'm struggling with a lot. It's talking about bending stuff to get things to follow a cylindrical shape like that. Smokeberry says, with sheer force of will, fueled by the rage of 1,000 suns and lots of coffee. Also maybe bend modifiers, that's right. Elforge says all caused by 3D Studio Max. Yes, that's right. I really need to look up some tutorials for the bend modifier because I'm not using it right. Yeah, I would be, I'm sure Blender would have a bend modifier. Every 3D software pretty much does. And it comes in really, really handy. There are some modifiers in Max that I use constantly. The bend modifier is one. The shell modifier is another. I mean, you can see the ones I use regularly because I put them in, I modify my modifier sets here to put the ones that I use most for easy reach. So the bend modifier, the shell modifier, the extrude modifier, turbo smooth of course, chamfer, which I use a lot. The usual unwrapping stuff, UVW mapping. They're probably the ones I use the most. Edit normals I use quite a bit as well, and quantify mesh. But and then I have an optimization one called Polygon Cruncher or Poly Optimizer. I use those a lot as well. But the bend modifier all the time. Sometimes the taper modifier as well, which is another good one to use, depending on what you're trying to model. But certainly the bend modifier all the time. And I made heavy use of it when I was modeling this up. So now the fun part comes where we've got to start UV mapping it before we can start texturing it up. And I'm just trying to decide where I want to start here. We might start with the frame. Let's start with the easiest and work our way to the hardest. So I'm just going to go into isolation mode here. Now I have to make sure I'm modeling the right version. We don't want to UV map the high poly version. We want to UV map the low poly version. So I'm going to turn off the high, and we're going to enable the low. Okay, so let's start by UV mapping this one here. Okay, let's do these. They should be relatively easy to map up. Isolate. I hope it says that looks a lot smarter way of doing it than the modifier in Blender. Now, I'm not familiar with the modifier in Blender, but I use the bend modifier in Max all the time. We're going to separate these up. We're going to do it bit by bit because otherwise the program will get completely confused if we try and do an unwrap on the whole thing at the same time. Let's isolate that. Because this fretwork, it is always has a problem with this sort of thing. It's an unusual shaped object for any program to try and unwrap. We'll see how we go. All of this sort of fretwork is always a pain, always a problem. Let's try to do the pelt mapping. No. No. Nope. Damn it. It's probably the best we're going to get it. We'll do a repack when we get back into Max. See if we can't get a better unwrap than that. Yeah, not a great unwrap on that one. That's better. I'm sort of just doing bits and pieces as I go. The fewer pieces I choose to do at the same time, the easier it will be for the program to handle. Knox says, what application are you using for the UVs? I'm using a program called Rizom UV. So RIZOM, Rizom UV. That's the program I'm using. I like it because it does the unwrapping pretty well automatically. Most times the automatic unwrap works really well because I hate UV mapping. Really important but really boring doing UV mapping. So yes, Rizom UV. Knox? Who doesn't? Knox says. True. Yeah. Look, it's boring doing unwrapping, but if you don't do it properly, then you're not going to get a good result for your texture maps. So really important, really boring. Healthwood says, if you want to get lazy in Blender, you can start by selecting sharp edges and remove a few extra selected and add a UV seam. That usually gets you a fair bit of the way for hard surface stuff. Max's built-in tools, or most 3D software's built-in tools, are quite fine. I don't suggest you buy a third-party program like Rizom unless you really, really need to, because, yeah, the tools built into most 3D software are very good anyway. They just take longer, that's all. The reason I like using this tool is because I can get stuff UV mapped really quickly. But don't think you need to spend money on a separate program, because the tools built into 3D software will get the job done. They'll just might take a little bit longer than using something like Rizom. Okay, let's tackle this bit down here now. Again, this is one of those really weird shapes for the program to try and UV map. Just going to get it to do an optimize. Get it to do a repack. We're going to do a master pack inside of Max when we send it back. So we'll get our textile density correct when we send it back to Max. Let's do these bits and pieces. Not that one. Let's see if we can't get a better result. Smurfberry says, just not the tools built into Blender. Well, Smurfberry. Nox, thank you for the follow, Nox. I do appreciate it. My apologies for taking so long to notice. Thank you for following Phil Does 3D. Welcome to Phil Does 3D, Nox. I'm live every Monday, Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific in the US. Hellford says, or smart unwrap seams from islands and remove the extra seams that you don't need. There are a few ways of doing it. I normally just sharp edge. Yeah, sharp edge selection is usually pretty good. Hellford says, the text tools and the UV Pack Master are great for UVing in Blender. And remember, you can use text tools in Max as well, and it's a free script. Well, it used to be. I believe it's still free. Just go to somewhere like ScriptSpot, download it, install it in Max, and use it. It does make UV mapping easier in Max, and it's free. Okay, I don't think we've got anything else that I've forgotten to UV map. I think that's everything. Just make sure. Yeah, I think we're good. So I'm going to send that back to Max, and then I'm going to do a pack. So we'll do an unwrap. And we'll get Max to repack it. Max sometimes doesn't do a great job with the pack. Let's use the other pack tool here. We'll get it to rotate clusters and fill holes. Let's see if we can get a better result. No. Let's try the other tool. So you have more options with this tool than this one, the shortcut over here. Let's try recursive packing. Nope. Linear packing. Nope. Non-convex. Let's turn off normalize. No. We'll just get Max to repack it. And I think what I might do here is I might just do a bit of manual adjustment. So let's have a look. This is one of those times where, like I said, sometimes I'll just have to go and do it by hand anyway. So there are bits here that are quite important on this model, and they're these fretwork and this pentagram. So that's basically going to be it's the back. It's not so important, the back. The front is more important. It's the circle. That's not so important. Okay, so basically it's most of this stuff. Just gonna make sure I select everything. Hit the wrong button. Okay. I'm going to scale this up. Select everything and go back and do another pack, but I'm not going to tell it to normalize or rescale. So Max will try and keep the same scale that I've already set. But we do need to make sure we stay within the 0 to 1 UV space. Scale it up just a little bit more. And that should be good. Let's just double check that by throwing down a checker pattern. So standard, checker, and we'll tile it 40 by 40. And let's just assign that texture and check out textile density. So again, the textile density here is a bit higher than the than like the bars that run up the outside, but I want this to be a little bit higher detail because yeah, the detail through this bit is more important than the detailing along the bars here. So while that textile density isn't completely the same, I prefer high detail on this decorative work through the center. That's the bit that's more important. We can afford to be a bit lower textile density on the bars on the outside. Hellforge says, I mainly use textiles for straightening out my UV shells, my shells, islands, or whatever the UVs are called. Yep, they're called shells and islands. And pack master to get all snugly fitting. The pentagram inverted. Yeah, no, it didn't invert the pentagram. The pentagram is actually not inverted. It's facing the right way up. Yeah. Because Mr. Barrett's not really an evil magician. So some things in the building, the pentagram is inverted. Like I think in the bathroom, we have a pentagram sitting under the bathtub. I think that's inverted. So some pentagrams will be inverted somewhere. So yes, we've got our textile density okay for this piece. We can make sure we just send it back to the color it was. So we've started our UV mapping at least. Let's unhide everything. And tomorrow we will move on. I'm just going to do a quick save. We'll move on to another part of the model. UV mapping it anyway before we start texturing in Substance Painter. But I think we might leave it there for today. You guys have posted images in the Discord, but I'll look at those tomorrow. Because Modboy posted a couple of more renders of his model, and it's looking really sweet. Edo did as well, of Magneto, and Hellforge has posted some gun images in the Discord gallery. So if you don't want to wait for me for tomorrow, jump on the Discord server and check them out. But I'll show up your work tomorrow just for the end of tomorrow's stream. But I do want to thank you guys and girls very much for hanging out with me and for watching. I will be back on again tomorrow, 5 p.m. Pacific time in the United States, as usual. You're quite welcome. And yeah, thank you guys for being here and for watching. I want to thank Nox for following. I'll be back at 5 p.m. tomorrow. We will pick up where we left off and continue working on our elevator. You guys and girls have a great night, great day, great morning, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Stay happy, healthy, and safe. And I will see you all again tomorrow. See you guys.